we open the floor about the science on the safety of the vaccines for children and pregnant women.
Megan, I'm gonna let you go ahead and start that one.
Sure.
And I'll jump in.
Well, I know that vaccines in pregnancy are a really important part, not only for protection for the mother, but also for the growing baby. And there's already vaccines that we commonly give in pregnancy, for influenza and the whooping cough vaccine. And the reason why is not only do you protect mom, who can become seriously ill while being pregnant, more so if she was not pregnant, but also to provide what we call passive immunization, or just giving those antibodies that can then go, through the placenta in order to provide the growing baby protection before the baby's old enough to participate in an active vaccination program. So that being said, as far as COVID vaccines in mothers, we do know that that the mothers who complete their 2-dose messenger RNA COVID series during pregnancy, that they do pass antibodies to their unborn babies. This has been studies. And actually, there's been another study that also shows that this helps prevent babies from COVID hospitalizations in their first 6 months of life. So this is a really important thing. In fact, it's also recommended now for a COVID booster, also for pregnant women, and this should have the same or maybe even a larger protective effect. So, and there's also some data to indicate that nursing moms can also pass some antibody to their infants. So I know that everyone who has children under the age of 5 is on the edge of their seats trying to know when they can start vaccinating their children, which the FDA will be meeting about in June. But for now, at least, before those babies become 6 months of age, they won't be able to participate. So this is a really important vaccine to be given.
Yeah, and I'll just add on. I mean, most of us take care of adults, right? And so most of our discussions are with adults. But I can say with some degree of confidence now, having vaccinated and boosted my 2 children, I think that we are very confident in the science that gave us those vaccines and their approval in children. I totally understand why people are worried about giving vaccines to children, giving them to pregnant women, because in the very beginning, those are populations that are tough to study. Especially pregnant women. It's not like you can just have a trial full of pregnant women. It's very hard to study those things. So we had to actually look and wait for real world data. The real world data have shown us that these are very safe and very effective vaccines in the real world for pregnant women. For children, they had trials, very rigorous trials, just like the trials for adults. They first started with 5 to 11. They got those approved. They went through all the right processes to do it. And then just as of like a day or two ago, they approved vaccines or they started the process to approve vaccines for 6 months to 5 years. And if you notice, that took a very long time. And there were people, mothers and fathers, parents of infants, that were very frustrated because the initial results of the 6 month to 5 year trial did not show the same level of protection. So they went back, they redosed it, and they found the right titration of the right series that's going to give them the maximum amount of protection. So these are things that are all rigorously scientifically studied, and they have good data. They have good safety data now, and so I think when they're just like Dr. Kaiser said, when there have been issues that have cropped up, there was a time where there was some worry about heart disease or myocardial inflammation in certain populations of kids. They stopped things, they studied them, and they issued new guidance to make sure that we were aware of those things. So again, these are very safe and very effective and across the pediatric spectrum as well.
Yeah, there's one last thing I'd like to say is that there is a rumor that's gone around and still pretty persistent that if you give it to a young girl that she won't be able to get pregnant. Let me assure you that's not true. And if you're thinking about using the vaccine as a method of birth control, it's not going to work. And in fact, we've seen women get pregnant on the vaccine right after they've gotten the vaccine. So it does not affect fertility in any way. And so moms that are scared about, their teenage daughters or preteen daughters, having any problems later in life, it's nothing to worry about. In fact, don't tell them that, it'll protect you from getting pregnant, because it won't.
And I think especially, also as a parent who has gotten my children vaccinated, who are ages 8 and 10, I think a lot of concern among parents is, kids usually don't get sick. So you hear so much and you worry.
That's
you don't
right.
want to do some harm to your child, especially when you hear about myocarditis. Oh, gosh, it sounds really scary, right? Inflammation of the heart. So no one wants to hurt their child, which is understandable. But when you really look at the science, kids are more likely to have myocarditis or inflammation of their heart, because I know that's the most feared side effect, from the actual virus themselves than from the vaccine. And if they were to get, which is not very common, it's actually pretty rare, but if they were to have the vaccine-induced inflammation, it's mild and they recover. When they look at kids who get sick with COVID, again, kids aren't supposed to get sick at all, right? So it's still among one of the top 10 causes of death among children. So this is still something that we need to prevent for our children. And a third of kids who are hospitalized are completely healthy. They don't have underlying medical problems. So just like all the other vaccines that we routinely give and don't even give a thought to, hopefully, as far as giving their routine childhood immunizations, this will be one of them going into the future.
Yeah, and along those lines, there's new data coming out about long COVID, the symptoms that people have that persist. And guess what? It's not necessarily related to how severe your initial illness or your initial infection is. And so there are people that are having problems concentrating and having problems focusing and having other neurologic and depression and things where the virus might affect the brain, who weren't really sick when they got COVID. And so one of the concerns is with kids is, how's this going to affect kids' long-term learning? How's this going to affect kids' ability to do school over the long haul? And so the better thing is let's just avoid the infection, and then you don't have to worry about it.